Hello, everyone, people of the tube. Very glad to see you guys all here today, guys and girls, guys and gals. I don't want to be a racist or feminist or whatever, right? I want to include everyone here. So, yeah, I was thinking on which topic to talk about today, and and I'm going to talk about food, right? And I'm going to talk about food because, like I've said before, when I was drinking and using drugs, I didn't eat sometimes at all. And usually what I ate was very poor, very, very poor quality. So then I had massive nutrient deficiencies, right? I was skinny as a rail, even though I was drinking all that beer, because my body was just burning it because there was no food, there was no fuel for that, for my body to function, right? It had to burn the calories from the liquor, from the alcohol. I remember I didn't smoke very much meth, but I remember I smoked a little bit, and I mean, I was up for days, right? Just days smoking, and it was crazy, and not eating at all, right? And I'm sure I lost like 10 pounds during that few days that I was on that. It's just crazy how we abuse ourselves, right? I didn't drink water. I didn't eat. If I ate, it was pizza or cheeseburgers from McDonald's or some garbage, right? So when we clean ourselves up, when we sober ourselves up, we have to think about that food and that lack of nutrients that we had for mine was like 10 years for sure of very hard drinking. But even as a teenager, I mean, my parents didn't make me a lunch. It was up to me to go home from school and make my own lunch because they were gone. And then when I got a little older, I was shoveling driveways and mowing lawns and stuff, so I had some money. So I mean, my friends and I would walk up, 13, 14, 15, we'd walk up to uptown, and there was a place called Robin's Donuts. It's like Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons or whatever, but back in the day it was called Robin's Donuts. And I remember eating like a dozen donuts for lunch, right? And then wondering, A, why I wasn't feeling super good, B, why I had all kinds of acne, and C, why I was bouncing off the walls, right? And I couldn't sit still and I couldn't stay, and they didn't want me in class, right? Because I was all over. Never mind meant like showing up high or drunk to class, right? Like that was, so that went on through my teenage years, and then 20s I was on my own and I was working, and I remember a lot of times I would have like a can of chunky soup. That would be my lunch, if I was lucky, right? If I even had $1 left. It wasn't earmarked for alcohol or drugs, right? Like I have to make sure I had that. Can't live without that shit, right? So I really neglected myself, right? Like absolutely neglected myself, and part of my physical deterioration with my right side all dying like that was probably a large part of it was nutrient deficiencies, right? And the myofascial tissue sticking together, like we talked about in a previous video, is a lack of hydration, right? That's a big thing, lack of hydration, especially working construction out in the sun, and like you're sweating all day, right? And then not drinking water hardly, and then at night all I did was drink beer or whiskey, vodka sometimes, but mostly beer or whiskey. Lots of beer, right? That was my thing. I just liked beer. So yeah, super dehydrated all the time, right? And like brain fog and all that, like it all comes from the hangovers and the dehydration, right? And the dehydration probably made the hangovers worse. So these are the things we do to ourselves, right? When we're drunk and high on drugs, and we don't even notice. So if you've listened to some of my previous videos, the very first ones, I said when I went to the treatment center in Nanaimo, they fed us like we were kings. I couldn't believe the quality of food and the amount of food that they gave us, and they said, you eat it all, like you eat everything there. There's just, you need it, right? And it was super good. It was a good way to start. And then when I moved back home after treatment, I couldn't afford much, like I said, so I wasn't eating the greatest right off the bat. But as I got more money coming in, went to work and had money, I'd start eating better, right? And I'd have lunch and I'd make sure that I ate, because my counselor told me online that I have to, like, that's you got to feed yourself. And if you're hungry and you're lonely and you're tired, that's a really good recipe for you to go back using and drinking, right? So just make sure you're always fed. So then now, after a while, I got into the health thing, and I started trying to fix my right side and my back pain and all that kind of stuff. And I was introduced to Walter, who then emphasized the importance of organic food, right? And other people I had seen on YouTube that were helping me out, Dr. Bergman, John Bergman there, the chiropractor, and Paul Chek, the health professional dude there. They also said organic food, organic food, organic food. So I know it's really expensive. I understand that. Like, it is expensive. And it stops most people right there in their tracks from buying organic food. And the organic food in the grocery stores isn't the best organic food. Like, it's just not, right? And so there's all kinds of excuses out there. Oh, it's not that great. There's still some pesticides. There's still some of this. There's still some of that. You know what? And that is true. That just is true. The best way to get your organic food is to find the people that are growing it at farmers markets. Right? That's just the best way. Fruit, veg, meats, cheeses, dairy. If you can get whole milk, like real milk that's unpasteurized, that's the stuff, right? That's the shit that you want. If all you can get is the organic stuff in the grocery store, it is much, much better, because the amount of toxins is reduced by like 70 to 90% from the non-organic, right? And if you're buying genetically altered, genetically modified foods, which most of the grains are, anything with canola oil in it, or vegetable oil as they call it, like, there's no vegetables in vegetable oil, right? It's canola oil. It's shit. It's an industrial lubricant is what it was. And then they found out that we could eat it and it wouldn't poison us. So then they started making margarine out of it. And they tried, and Crisco oil and crap like that. It's not good for you. That is your saturated fat, right? Like, that is the stuff that gives you heart problems. Guaranteed. So that's all genetically modified. The cells of your body do not recognize genetically modified food. They don't. Because it's not real. It's not anything that your body grew up with. We didn't evolve with genetically modified food. We didn't evolve eating canola oil and vegetable oil, or even sunflower oil. I mean, like, we didn't evolve like that, right? So you really, when you're eating, you have to look back at what our ancestors used to eat and how they lived and how they survived for thousands of years, right? And they didn't have all the cancers and all the heart disease and all that. They had almost none of that shit. That shit didn't really exist, right? That's the last 100 years. right? That's the last 100 years. And the same people that took over the school system, right? The Rockefellers, and I always forget that the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, they're the richest families in the United States, and Canada and parts of Britain. I think they just had way too much money, more money than the actual countries were bringing in, right? They were just super wealthy, and they created the systems that we live with today. They created the school system, they created the doctor health system, and they started changing the way we farmed, right? And every single one of them, well, the school system not so much, but what the school system did was it instead of making you smarter, instead of like making you a scholar, or you're really good at art, and encouraging that, all they wanted from you was that you would sit there, shut your mouth, do the work, not complain. When the bell rang, you would go and pee or go and eat. And when the bell rang again, you would come back and sit down and work, right? They wanted to make you listen to your teachers, listen to authority, so that they could control you, right? And dumb you down, right? That's what the school system is for. It's not there to make you smarter, right? It's not there to educate you. It's there to control you, to make you into a robot, so that they can control you, right? And you'll go to a factory job, or you'll go sit in a fucking cubicle and push paper all day and get fat and lazy and back pain and all that stuff, right? And not question it. Not say, F you, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go do something else, right? That's not what. And so the more educated you are, the more controlled you are, right? The more programmed you are by that education system to believe what the system is telling you. And I see it all the time, right? All the time. I know people that completely believe whatever the party in power is telling them, right? They don't open their eyes and ears and want to listen to the other side of the story. They just want to listen to that, and that's what the truth is. And if you question it, they get mad at you, right? I know that people that I know that are university educated and have 6, 7, 10 years of education think anyone that doesn't have that university education is dumb and stupid, right? But they can't change a tire. They can't fix their own tap, change their tap, or fix their sink, or a lot of them can't even cut their own effing lawn, right? They're useless. All they can do is read books and regurgitate garbage to you, right? It's been indoctrinated into them, and so that's the education system, the way I see it. Maybe I'm dumb because I'm not educated, but that's what I see, right? So that's the education. Then you got the health care system, right? So before the Rothschilds and the Carnegies, your health was, there was herbalists, there was chiropractors, there was osteopaths, there was Reiki people, there was all kinds of modalities, massage, and all this stuff was widely accepted by the population, right? And in order to, again, control the situation and make the maximum amount of money that they could possibly make, they needed people to take pharmaceutical drugs, right? Pharmaceutical drugs are a petroleum-based product. And they're patentable, right? So they can make a lot of money off that patent. It's really hard to patent willow bark, which is aspirin, right? Anyone can go and take a willow tree, peel the bark off, cook her down, make some aspirin, use it for your kids or whatever when you need it. Anyone can do that. And it's free, right? Like, as long as you don't kill off all the willow trees in the earth, you're good. So they needed to patent those drugs. so that they could make money. They needed to make extra money off of the oil that they were pumping out of the ground. So by taking the byproducts from making diesel and gasoline and using those byproducts to make other products like plastics and stuff, but also petrochemicals, right? And back in the day, before Carnegie and Rothschild got involved, the only people that used those particular drugs or would use them were allopathic physicians, which did surgery, right? Those are the only people. The rest of them didn't want anything to do with it because it wasn't natural. And they knew that if it wasn't natural, the body didn't like it, right? This is way back, Chinese medicine, all that stuff. Our ancestors knew all this stuff. Their great-great-grandmother knew all of this stuff that I'm telling you. The body does not recognize those. They're toxic. Any petrochemical product is toxic to your body. So the surgeons, the allopathic doctors were the ones that would use this stuff. And they needed to, too, because surgery and stuff back in the day was very disgusting and painful, right? Like you really didn't want to get it done unless you had to. So they were kind of the lepers of the health community back in the day. So they jumped on board. And then the Rothschilds and the Carnegies bought up all of the health schools so that the only thing they taught was allopathic. Everything else was quackery. They invented that word to get rid of all of the actual health professionals, right? The herbalists and naturopaths and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where that word comes from. It comes right from them. Again, they're programming us to believe a certain scenario that they profit from, right? Just like the school system, they're making workers that work in their factories that don't complain, that are easily programmable. Now you're programmable with your health, right? With doctors and what you believe. And everything else, and it's really blatant nowadays, like, is quackery, that none of that stuff works. Well, I know it works because I've used it, right? And so the organic food, the Reiki, the massage, the chiropractors, the osteopaths, they all have helped me out greatly. Whereas the allopathic doctors didn't help me at all. Didn't help me at all, right? Because they just wanted to do surgery or give me a prescription drug. That's all they had for me. So, and then the food system. So now the food system is another petrochemical dependent system, right? All of those sprays that we spray. I'm on the prairies in Canada. They spray a lot of that crappy glyphosate and all kinds of other horrible, horrible things onto the earth, right? They spray anhydrous ammonia, whatever it is, into the soil, which kills all of the bugs, so all of the worms and the ants and everything that helps your plants grow, that feeds your plants, that produces proper fertilizers, and they're all dead. They're killed. They're all dead. The soil is sterilized. So then the only nutrients it gets are from the petrochemical companies again, right? So you got the nitrogen, you got potassium, you got phosphates, and there's another one I can't remember, but there's 4. There's 4 of them. That's all your plants need. But there's thousands of vitamins and nutrients that your plants would actually absorb if they're organic, if they're grown properly. So the plants you eat, conventionally grown, are so void of nutrients, minerals, and stuff that they make you sick, right? And then you get the genetically modified version of that, and your body doesn't recognize it because it's not real. The cells of your body don't recognize it, right? So you're eating Frankenfood, right? And believe me, I've did it, and I still do once in a while when I have nothing else. Like, honestly, I can't always find the organic food I want, especially where I live in the winter, because it just doesn't exist here. When I lived in British Columbia, I had way more access even in the winter because they just have better access to organic food. There's just more people there that eat it. So they bring it in. There's stores that are just organic. Here there is too in Winnipeg, but not where I live, right? Like Winnipeg's 3.5, 4 hours away, right? Regina is another 3 hours away. Those are the only two locations I can get organic food other than the major superstore, which is an hour away. And they're very limited. So it's a limited selection. So I really, really enjoy it when everybody starts growing their own gardens and I can go out and find the organic food, right? There is some organic beef I can get my hands on here just down the road, and I buy that when I can. Whenever they have it, I buy it. My mom's boyfriend, north of here, about an hour and a half, he has cattle. They're not organic, but he doesn't do any injections. He doesn't do any growth hormones. He feeds them grass only, right? He doesn't spray his grass with Grazon, which is a spray on your grass to keep the weeds out. Another thing, like weeds are highly nutritious, right? When I used to work on my dad's feedlot, he had cattle out in the pasture. They would go and they would eat the poplar trees, the bark and the leaves off the poplar trees as high up as they could get, as much as they could get before they would eat the grass, right? Because the leaves and the bark are so full of nutrients compared to the grass that he planted. And he hated that. He hated the fact that they did that, right? He thought they should be eating the grass because it's better for them. But obviously the cows know. The cows know what's better. Like they're not in school, indoctrinated in school to believe garbage, right? They're just not. So the food we eat is very important, right? Eating 3 meals a day and snacks. It sounds like a lot, but what it does is it keeps your metabolism going, right? Which burns fat. As soon as you starve yourself, your body figures it's starving, it stores fat. So now it might be okay to fast once in a while, just to get the toxins out and stuff. But doing it every day, bad for you. You want to eat more, a little bit, every few hours so that it keeps your metabolism going. And you want to eat the best food you can afford, right? Instead of buying that new truck or that new car, drive the old car and spend that money on food. Right? That's the best way to do it. You don't really need a new car or a new truck. You don't need a brand new anything like that. If your health is deteriorating and you're not eating healthy, good food, organic food, then that money is way better spent keeping this vehicle in tip-top shape than it is to drive a vehicle thinking that everyone's watching you or it's impressing people, right? They don't give a shit, man. The odd person might say, oh, that's a nice car or whatever, but honestly, they don't care. No one cares, right? They're more impressed when you walk up and you're in your 50s and you got a 6-pack abs and you got arms and you're not a big fat blob of jello. That impresses people a lot more than a brand new Chevy truck or whatever. Like, it just does, right? And it's better for you because this is your vehicle. This is what you're going to age into. This is what you need as you get older. That's what you need to function the best. All this other stuff is just, again, you're programmed. You're programmed to want all this material stuff. And it's really at your detriment that you get the material stuff, but you're not looking after this thing. Right? When you're in your addiction, the addiction's the most important thing. Once you're out of that addiction, this should be the most important thing. You. Right? Getting yourself as healthy as possible so that when you age, you're aging well. Right? Hopefully you guys got something to think about out of this. I'm going to go back sweating on my roof for a while. I needed a break, so I'm glad I came and did this. Like, subscribe, comment. Love your comments, guys. Thanks, and I'll talk to you later.